first line on CNN this morning, and it's too much of a mouthful, but I don't yet have the words that I want to use. Are they dueling canaries in a coal mine? Are they dueling canaries in a coal mine? I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. This week came two different warning signs of what could impact the 2024 election that echo previous impactful events. Well, I never want to use a word twice in one sentence, so I'm not going to say impact and impactful. But the point is, I'm going to be talking about the EU elections, which took place last weekend in Europe and saw the rise of populist or right-wing parties. And it makes me wonder, is this similar to Brexit in June of 2016, having passed in the United Kingdom and sort of forecasting the rise of Donald Trump in our election? That's one of the canaries in a coal mine. And the other canary in a coal mine is the arrest of these 8 Tajikistan nationals with suspected ISIS connections who came across our Mexico border. And what if there were to be, God forbid, but some terror incident between now and the election? If you saw the thumbnail for this conversation, it's a photograph of Richard Clarke, who has advised 3 U.S. presidents in matters of national security. He's the guy who sounded the alarm prior to September 11. More on that in just a moment. Let me mention Parx Casino. This is how you win, is what they say. Have you seen the forecast for the Northeast? For much of the country, but selfishly, I say for the Northeast next week, holy smokes, those temps are going to be through the roof, and on a sustained basis. The extreme weather all around the planet is just not to be denied, right? If you want to get inside in AC, still be mingling, not locked up, cooped up at home, but having some fun when all that heat hits, how about Parx Casino? $5 drafts of Forge Stout, Victory Seasonal, or Parx Pills, $5 glasses of Albertani Cabernet. TC loves that. The drink of summer, a $5 twisted tea frozen whiskey Arnold Palmer. All this goes down at the Liberty Bell Gastropub, and they've got $5 small plates of braised short rib sliders, hot honey chicken sliders, or rotisserie chicken flatbreads. It's the epic $5 happy hour at Parx Casino, which is taking place every Wednesday through Sunday at the Liberty Bell Gastropub. I mean, that's awesome. What a deal. And all the other fun stuff, 3,200 state-of-the-art slots, 115 live table games, and all of the great entertainment. Joe Conklin's comedy night every other Wednesday or Thursday. Joe Conklin's Thursday nights. Yeah, Joe Bartnick is coming up. I saw him there a couple of months ago. Very funny guy. And all the A-listers in the Excite Center. You got to be 21. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, parxcasino.com. Check it out. So this is kind of interesting. Richard Clarke is not only a radio guest of mine, but he is also a radio listener, which I love. And he sent me a note earlier in the week. And the note said, where the hell is the note? He said, "You've been saying," meaning on radio, "that someone we may never have heard of or some event that we could never have imagined might determine the election." And then he says, "Right. In the 2008 election campaign, I ran a little group for Obama in which we tried to imagine national security surprises and then develop plans for how the campaign would react. I spent a lot of time on a scenario of Israel bombing the Iranian nuclear program. We later learned that such a bombing almost happened, but the Bush White House quietly intervened to stop it." In other words, the point is that there's some game theory that takes place on the part of the campaigns. I don't know that Trump does this. I mean, he's so unconventional. I don't know that this is his MO. But traditionally, Richard Clarke explained to me, at this stage of the campaign, they're trying to anticipate anything that might percolate, anything that might happen to change the trajectory of the race, including an incident of international security. So Richard Clark wrote today for the Smerconish.com newsletter. When it comes out in 20 minutes, you'll see it. You can go to the website and read his piece now. And he reached out for me and said, I'm going to play out one or more of these scenarios and I'll write it up and we'll publish it on your website and in your newsletter. I'm like, this is awesome. So that's what he did for today. And he's coming on CNN with me to discuss it further. So do you want to hear his scenario? It's pretty detailed. I won't read the whole thing to you because I want you to go and read it in the newsletter. But it's like, here, all drawn up. Crisis number one, a terrorist attack in the U.S. by a team that crossed from Mexico. The scenario, on Friday, October 31st, 5 days from the presidential election, a Halloween street party in Washington's Georgetown neighborhood is attacked by terrorists detonating parked car bombs and then gunning down civilians and first responders. Two surviving and captured terrorists tell the FBI that they are ISIS-K members from Afghanistan who infiltrated the United States by easily crossing the Arizona-Mexico border. 23 Americans are dead, 42 are injured. By the day of the attack, a third of registered voters had already cast their votes. On far-right social media sites, an allegation is spreading that the intel community had warned the White House that an attack of ISIS-K had entered the U.S. from Mexico in May, but the White House had instructed that the story be suppressed and not briefed to the public, state, and local police. And then he goes on with other responses in the political world and poses the question of, okay, what should President Biden then do? Remember, he's got this hypothetical attack on the Friday before the Tuesday election. So what should Biden do if it happened? After the Georgetown attack, Biden should go to the attack site, to a hospital where victims are being treated. He should meet with his national security team in the Situation Room. Saturday night, he should address the nation. On Sunday, he should go to FBI headquarters for an update on the investigation. Monday morning, speaking from the White House podium, he should announce that a B-2 squadron has struck ISIS-K camps in Afghanistan, and on and on and on. And then he says, okay, how do you inoculate Biden? Again, if you're on Biden's team, if the Biden campaign leadership thought this scenario might possibly occur, they would have Biden meet with counterterrorism chiefs, publicize the meeting, follow up with a new presidential directive. His message would be, do not let our guard down. And then Richard Clark puts on sort of a Trumpian hat. What should Trump do if this happened? Trump's goals in this scenario are to look strong, make Biden look weak, tie the attacks to Biden's twin failures, Afghanistan and the border. Trump would claim that Biden had promised that the U.S. could and would still go after terrorists in Afghanistan, and on and on and on. Bottom line, the scenario puts Biden at a huge disadvantage, but Trump could overplay his hand and be seen to be taking advantage of the tragedy. So true, right? I'm thinking that it would be interesting to have other experts, if we can enlist some with credentials, play out other scenarios like this, not necessarily in an international terror context, in terms of talking about what could happen in the next several weeks, couple of months, several weeks. It's amazing because 2 weeks from today, I will be sitting here, no doubt having a live conversation with all of you on YouTube, and then going on television, having already had a conversation on radio about who won the debate. 2 weeks from today, that debate, the June 27 debate, will be in the can. Wow. And then you know what happens. It's like people are going to go their separate ways for July and August. By the time we get back together, it's not the start of the fall campaign. It's the start of voting. And somewhere along the way, Donald Trump will have been sentenced. The Republican National Convention will take place. The Democratic National Convention will take place. And who knows what unforeseen events, people, events, will have sort of entered this whole conversation. So please read what Richard Clark wrote and look for him to be my guest today on CNN. I'm also going to talk to Ambassador Volker about the significance, if any, of those EU elections on our election here in the States. Speaking of Europe, it's interesting because I have my eye on CNN as I'm speaking to all of you live. The trooping of the color is taking place at this moment, which is a traditional celebration, not on the sovereign's birthday, but in celebration of, in this case, King Charles's birthday. And when I was in London last week, all of the stands were being set up for this event. I'll tell you something interesting. If you listen to me on radio, you know that I had this bucket list experience of being in 10 Downing Street. And actually, walking and having pretty wide range of experience of seeing what is in number 10 Downing Street, which the home and office, the White House essentially of the United Kingdom, but the home and office of, in this case, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. And I was there on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which was kind of cool. That's where Winston Churchill was 80 years ago on the day that I was there. But one of the observations that I had is that 10 Downing Street is really in a fishbowl, in the same way that the White House is. But to be in 10 Downing Street and to be, adjacent to the Prime Minister's office, or as I was in the Cabinet office, the Cabinet room, is to look out windows and realize, like, wow, there are tourists and I can see them. And I remember being in 10 Downing Street and looking out some of the windows and looking into the stands that had been assembled for the trooping of the color and thinking to myself, it's such a labyrinth, I love that word to describe 10 Downing Street, of offices and like a hodgepodge of things, not much uniformity to it. That the people sitting in those stands today, this is my point. If you're watching on television, the trooping of the color, and that part where there's almost like an amphitheater that's been created, not when they're walking along the mall toward Buckingham Palace, but watch on CNN and you'll see what I'm talking about. Those folks are seated in very close proximity to number 10 Downing Street. And if some of them crane their necks, they could look into the window or windows of number 10 Downing Street. It's really funny just to be inside and see it in reverse. I also wanted to tell you that today on CNN, I get to air my Kevin Costner interview, which I recorded before I went away, and I'm really excited about. He has this movie coming out June 28th, so the day after the debate. It's called Horizon, an American Saga, and it is a big, screen, old school, think How the West Was Won, if you remember, Western. 3 hours long. And that's part one. And then part two comes in August. It's like a big gamble by Kevin Costner, who put nearly $40 million of his own dollars into this movie because it's been a passion project of his for a long, long time. And now he's making it happen on his own. The reviews are mixed. It got an 11-minute standing ovation at Cannes. I enjoyed it. And I saw it on my television at home. That was the only way that I could see it as an advance. I enjoyed being in his company, and I respect the fact that, he's got something that he wants to deliver, and that for more than 2 decades, he's worked to bring it to the big screen. So I think you'll get a kick out of it. I think you'll get a kick out of the interview. And then the other thing also with Europe on the brain is, I'm looking for my phone as I'm speaking to you. Here it is. I'm really eager to talk about this phone theft issue, which I witnessed firsthand in London, and which I'm sure is coming to the United States. Brazen attacks in terms of thefts of people's phones. And, you think about it because you wave your, let me grab my phone. You wave your phone around. I'm just walking along on the streets, taking pictures and chatting, and go to a restaurant, you put it down on your phone. You don't think of it as, hey, here's $1,000. Here is $1,000 that I'm just setting on the table. And somebody can come up and grab it or snatch it right out of your hand. So, yeah, that'll be a great segment as well. A lot of stuff going on. And a great poll question today at Smerconish.com. Will the MAGA movement outlast Donald Trump? will the MAGA movement outlast Donald Trump? And let me just tie all this together and say, if you're inclined to say, oh yes, this is like flash in the pan, all tied to his personality, then how do you explain the EU elections last weekend where far-right parties and populists had such success in the same way that Brexit did? No. He's been able to harness these sentiments that are out there driven by migration, porous borders, inflation, and concerns of people that so much change is taking place that they can't see where they fit in down the road. My vote, will the MAGA movement outlast Donald Trump? My vote's yes. I don't know that it'll be a single personality, but the sentiments that are out there are just, they're not necessarily tied to Trump, right? They're not dependent on Trump. That's a better way to say it. So, thank you all. It's nice to see you or be seen. I can see your comments flashing by. I read them later in the day when I can catch my breath. I think this is going to be a good CNN show, so I hope that you'll watch. And by the way, Monday night, the Mingle Project on Long Island, the Engelman Theater in Northport. I always want to say North Point. Wherever the hell it is, I'm going to be there on Monday night with bells on. Sold out 400 or 500 tickets. I'm just elated and looking forward to seeing you if you're on the island. Okay? Thanks, gang. Have a good day. Stay cool this week. See ya.